So, welcome everybody to this webinar on Google Accessibility. I'm Neil Harrod Beck and I work for Techability. As always, if you've got any questions, feel free to ask them throughout. We'll make sure that the slides and the recording are sent through to you at the end of the webinar. So, I think if you've seen the Microsoft webinar, I'm going to be presenting it in a similar kind of way, telling you what we're going to cover and what we're not. We're going to aim to keep it to about 20 minutes, so it's going to be punchy. We're looking at an introduction to Google inbuilt accessibility settings. So we're going to look at how Google approaches accessibility. We're going to cover Google Workspace, which is Docs, Gmail, Slides, anything in that kind of space. It was called Office or something like that as well before, but now they call it Workspace. Going to cover Chrome browser and finally have a little look at Chromebook settings as well. So we're not covering Google accessibility settings on all platforms. It's just too exhaustive. But I think what you'll have today will give you enough to kind of go away and do extra reading if there was something that you wanted to find out more on. We're not going to cover demonstrations of accessibility settings today. It's probably better if you come to one of our kind of inbuilt accessibility training courses if you want to see the full version of that. We're not going to look at in-depth creating and reviewing accessible documents, particularly with Google. There are limits with that. We're not going to cover Android accessibility as we covered that with mobile apps and the mobile side of things, so we don't want to recover old ground. And we're not going to look at an exhaustive list of Google accessibility features, just the key ones that stand out to us. So their approach, especially compared to Microsoft or Apple, is that there are less built-in tools and they encourage third-party tools. An example of this would be Read and Write, which we're going to cover later on. There are more plugins and there are things missing. So there's no accessibility checker, for example. On the right-hand side there, we've got a picture of the welcoming page to the Chrome Web Store. So it gives you an idea of what platforms that you can buy those plugins and or just get the free plugins from. So for me, especially after looking over this again, the missing piece is that Google software is most accessible on Google devices. I think that's been their approach in terms of they want you to access their tools on a Chromebook on Android. So there are accessibility tools on other platforms, but that's how they design it. So the best tools I would say are on Google devices with Google software in the Google kind of workspace. So Android has really good accessibility features and a wide range of apps. Chromebooks have helpful accessibility features and they're created using inclusive design principles, and it really stands out compared to the rest of their accessibility offer. So hopefully that insight will help you to understand how they approach the different areas of accessibility. So onto their kind of office suite, really. Google Docs has voice typing, and I must admit this is one of my favorite tools, so I'm just kicking off with this really. It's just really simple, and it's a great way to start if you have a student or a person that you're working with who wants to use their voice and just have it write down the text. So to get to this, you click on Tools once you're in Google Docs, and then just go to voice typing, and then it brings up a microphone symbol, and then you click that to speak. The first time you run it, it might have a little notification where you just have to click allow. So that works in Chrome, Edge, and Safari. Also you can use different languages as well. And how I like to use this is very conversationally. So I might be sitting there with the student and just start talking and getting some ideas down on the page. So no training, and you can just start it straight away. In Google Docs, there are some keyboard shortcuts. I've got a link there for the full list of keyboard shortcuts, but I just thought I'd pull some useful ones. So zoom in is Control and the plus symbol, zoom out, Control and the minus symbol. Zoom in back to 100% is Control plus 0. If you want to find in a document, Control plus F, and then if you're looking at alt text, which is where you rewrite a description of an image to make it work with screen readers, then that's Control, Alt, and Y. So the full list is on there as well. With Google Slides, you can present slides with captions. So on the bottom left of the present screen, you can click more options, caption preferences, and then toggle captions. There is also a shortcut. So on Chrome or Windows, it's Control Shift and C. On Mac, it's the Mac button plus Shift and C. And it's not got an accessibility checker. So if we're comparing it Google Slides to PowerPoint, with PowerPoint, you can actually check all your accessibility and it will tell you where you've duplicated page titles, when you've got contrast that doesn't work, when you haven't filled in alt text. It just goes through slide by slide. With slides, you have to do it yourself. So there's a link there that will give you a guide of how to do that, but it does perform poorly compared to Microsoft in terms of an accessibility checker. For Gmail, there are some accessibility settings, especially in terms of themes. You can go to settings, quick settings, and then theme, and then click view all, and then you can choose default, dark, or pre-uploaded. I'm quite a fan of the dark themes. They help me to read and concentrate on things a little bit. You can also change the text background, and there are some other visual settings that you can just tinker with there. And then make sure you click save at the end to save all those. The other accessibility features are keyboard shortcuts in Gmail, language settings, turn images on and off, and use Gmail with a screen reader. So it's quite sparse. There's not a lot there, really. We're quite limited in Gmail. Google Workspace have got guides on each of these individual areas. So if there was a particular, we've just covered the main ones today, but if you wanted to say look at forms or sheets or something like that, we've got the individual help topics there. But I will warn you, there's not much in them. So a lot of it is repetition of how to make things accessible with screen readers, which is great if you're a screen reader user and you need everything read out on the page to you and you need to navigate using what you hear, then that's great. But it's quite limited in terms of other features that we might see on other platforms. We've also got Chrome browser. So this is again where we see that different approach, where these are the things that are built into Chrome browser. It's enough for us to list it on one page, really. You can use TalkBack, but that's an Android feature. This is what I was saying about using it with Android. You can use Chrome with accessibility extensions, and again, that's buying something else in. They have got the text, image, and video sizes that you can change. That is built in. Keyboard shortcuts are as well. So these are in. This is the exhaustive list for reference. So if you do need to go back and see a particular one, you can see it here. So the particular ones that stand out to me are Zoom. It's a really simple one. So you just go into the three dots at the top right of the browser and choose the zoom options that you want. You can also, again, use that same shortcut that we heard earlier, Control and plus and Control and minus to make it bigger or smaller. I quite like to use the mouse wheel as well. You can hold Control and just use the mouse wheel to zoom in and out. And that works in a lot of windows and a lot of different other platforms as well. And full screen will F11, and that'll take away the menu and everything and just keep it quite simple. You can change the font sizes in all windows, which is really useful. On the right head there, I've just shown how to get to that. So once you're in settings, if you go to appearance, we've highlighted font size there, and you can change that from medium to kind of larger font sizes. They won't always look as good on the page, so it's worth checking them first and seeing how it looks. There's also, you can change the font options by clicking customize fonts. So you might want to choose a more accessible font. If a particular student or individual likes a particular font, then that's helpful for them. So where they're focused, those are quite limited options really in terms of accessibility. So what they've tried to do to fill in the blanks is have Chrome extensions. So you'll need to use these in Chrome, often with a Google account. So you need to think about how are you going to set students up with accounts, safety, privacy, all those kind of things really. Or do you make some generic student accounts to do that? So that's something to think about organizationally. Once you've downloaded the extension and installed it, you might still need to restart the browser or hit refresh or open a new tab for it to take effect. So if it isn't working straight away, don't worry about it. Go through that process first. And of course, the limitation is it will only help learners in the Chrome browser. So you're teaching them a tool that they can use in that browser, but then they can't use on the desktop. They can't use in other um, platforms as well. So there are limitations. Uh, so on the right hand side there, this is what it looks like once you've got some extensions set up. So we've gone into the Chrome extension store and we've downloaded, in this case, Beeline Reader, Helper Bird, and Read and Write. So on the top here, you can see three logos. Those are the ones that we've got pinned. So they're easy to access because we've pinned them. And it's this little pin symbol here, and it's got a cross through at the moment, showing that if we click on it, it'll unpin it. So if we pin or unpin it, it just means you can see it or you can't see it. That isn't the same as enabling or disabling. So to enable or disable, you'll often have to go to the three dots next to it and enable or disable to turn it on or off. Some people find that when they can't see it, they think it's off, but sometimes it might be on. It's worth reading the reviews of all of these and checking the privacy policies, and they are liable to change. So the last time I did something on Chrome browser extensions was probably, I think probably 3 years ago, 2, 3 years ago, I looked into it. And since then, I'd say about a third of them had either changed or moved on. So if you're looking for transition for students, think about, are these options always going to be there for them, or is there going to be a changeover? And I know nothing's forever, but with some of these, they do change or become removed quite quickly. The ratings may be quite low, so I think experiences vary with some of these tools. So we're recommending them as useful, but just take it with a pinch of salt and give it a try yourself first before you set students up with it. I think is a good approach in general. They have self-published some accessibility extensions, so this is something that I didn't see when I looked at it 2, 3 years ago, but is there now. So I've listed those there. Caret browsing means you can navigate using your keyboard. So if students struggle to use the mouse, they can use the keyboard. Color enhancer adjusts the web page colors. So good for those with either just visual preferences of colors or with some kind of color blindness. Now, high contrast, I haven't included on the link there because when I went onto the page, it said this extension is no longer available because it doesn't follow best practices for Chrome extensions. Again, a little bit skeptical about how much effort they're putting into this. If one of their own self-published accessibility tools doesn't meet their own standards, it's not the best. They do have long descriptions in context menu as well. So that's if you're looking at alt text, it will give you a longer description rather than just a very short one. So some of the ones that have stood out in terms of third-party tools that are good on the Chrome extension store, one of these is Helper Bird, and it's got a massive variety of tools. There's an awful lot in it, so it's really worth having a look down in it. It can bring Immersive Reader to Chrome. There are options there. So if they're using Immersive Reader, which is a Microsoft accessibility tool, it's a way of having a plugin to use this in Chrome browser as well. So you can change fonts, font size, you can have an overlay. There's optical character recognition from pictures, so you can have pictures with text read out to you. There's a dictionary, you can change the cursor size, there's text to speech, high contrast mode, and much more. So there's a free basic mode that has a lot of that built in, but then some of the features are in the Pro mode, and the Pro mode is $40 a year. So that's Helper Bird. I think it might be good actually if I just pop that link in the chat, because then that also effectively gives you the link to the Chrome web store as well, just if you wanted to look either while we're presenting or at the end now. Read and Write is probably the most well-known and the most supported tool and the most updated tool in terms of Chrome browser extensions. It's got text to speech. It's easy to follow. It's got the dual color highlighting, so it'll highlight the sentence and then highlight the particular word that you're hearing. They've got text and picture dictionaries built in. With speech to text, you can dictate the words and that'll assist you as you go along. There's also word prediction and it will give you suggestions for your current or next word as you type. So on the right hand side of the screen at the top of we're using Google Docs in this case. At the top, that's the read and write bar, and you've got all the different tools there. There's just the images of what they are. So the play button, for example, would read out the text. The book button would open up the dictionary. So it works very well with Google Docs, and I'd say it's probably the most useful accessibility tool that works well with Google. They offer a free license for teachers as well, so I think that's really good to just have available and just work with yourself. That way you can try it with students, see how they get on with it, and see if it's worth it. The highlight mode is also really useful. So you can use it in research. If you were teaching students how to go onto the internet, research some topics and collate some information, it's really useful. So the highlighter tools on there's a blue one, purple, yellow, green. So as you were going through a web page, you could use that highlighter tool, highlight some of the text, and then it will pull it back into the document and it will reference it as well. So it's a really good step up tool for students if you're looking to teach them how to start doing referencing and pull together information. Um, yeah, worth a go. They've also got really good resources kind of talking you through some of the features. So on YouTube and on their website as well. Grammarly is very well known, and I'll warn you if you type this in, you will have YouTube adverts for the rest of your life, I think. I get bombarded with Grammarly adverts because I've looked into different tools like this. It's an AI writing and grammar checker app. Works on many platforms, so you're not just limited to Chrome browser. It will check as you type and it will make recommendations and it will just highlight things that you can change and improve. There's free and premium versions, again, with different levels of features. You can either have it as you go along or you can review entire documents and it'll give you a kind of report on everything that you've got in terms of grammar. Because a lot of the spell check tools are now built in. So this is kind of just that next level of readability in terms of grammar. Reader modes are quite handy. I think there are a few different options, so it might be worth looking at different reader modes kind of tools. But essentially, it strips out a lot of the adverts, the clutter, the distractions, and just gives you the text on the page. So we've all been on those websites that just have loads of different adverts, especially if you're looking for recipes or something like that. This is a way of just cutting that all out, and it's free, which is quite handy. Reading ruler, this is just a way of highlighting a line and reading a line by line, and it can help people to focus on what they're reading. It's not as good as the one built into Immersive Reader, I'd say, in terms of comparing Microsoft to Google tools. Chromebooks, again, as I said earlier, the best tools are in Google devices in terms of what they're providing. So Chromebooks have fairly good accessibility tools. They've split it into display and visuals, audio and captions, spoken feedback, and motor. The link on that page is Google's own resources for accessibility. There's really good video guides where they break each one down into useful steps. On the right hand side, I've got a desktop picture of a Chromebook. So on there, we just click at the right where the time is, and then you get this side menu pop up. The settings cog there will take you into all of the settings. And within settings, towards the bottom, you've got accessibility, and it's the logo of the person, stick person, just standing with their arms out. So Lots of different options there, and we're looking at text to speech. You can type text with your voice. You can change the display to high contrast mode, screen magnifier. You can change the screen resolution or text size. For the keyboard, you can turn on sticky keys, which will make sure that you don't have to hold keys and then press something else. You can just tap it and it will turn on. An example would be Control Alt Delete. You tap Control, tap Alt, and then tap Delete, rather than having to hold two and then tapping Delete. There's an on-screen keyboard, has limited options in terms of visuals. There's a keyboard focus highlighting. You can change the keyboard repeat rate, which means you can kind of filter out some of the keys. And there's word prediction as well. The mouse and touchpad has some different options. You can turn on navigation buttons, change your cursor highlighting, change the size and the color. If you're used to Windows accessibility mode, you'll probably see a lot of the kind of parallels here. So this is much more in depth, quite similar to what Windows or Apple does with these kind of things. With audio, you can play all sounds together through all speakers, which is useful for kind of left and right kind of hearing issues. There's Chrome live captions as well, which will mean any media played on your Chrome browser can have captions, which is a great accessibility feature. So compared to the figurative desert that some of the other accessibility is in Google, the Chromebooks are a little bit better. They do have a good basis of this. In one of our other webinars, we actually look at how you can convert old laptops into Chromebooks as well. So if you've got some old Chromebook, old laptops, and you don't feel you'll get much value out of them for either kind of selling or getting rid of them, then they can be turned into Chromebooks. It takes time though, and if you're not used to using Chromebooks, then obviously there'll be a learning process, training, and everything else. So it isn't quite as simple as that. But often, if learners can't afford a device of their own, it may just be repurposing some laptops and turning them into Chromebooks. It's good if you're looking to help people on a budget, which a lot of people are, so can be quite helpful. Thought I'd mention accessible documents. Even though there isn't an accessibility checker, we do need to create accessible documents when we're working with our students. So you can create your own, especially as an organization, create a kind of bank of already accessible documents, templates that then everyone else in your organization can use. So we're looking for structure in terms of heading styles. We want color contrast so you can read the text against the images. We want alt text on images. With the links, what is said in the link should be what the link is. So when it's read out with the text-to-speech tool, you should be able to hear what that link actually is. Use plain English and just be careful with tables. They don't always read as you might expect. So don't use merged or split cells. That's a whistle-stop tour of accessible documents. There's obviously a lot more to it, but if you start off with those 6, then you'll be well on your way. And I've used this on a few of our webinars. It's a really useful tool from AbilityNet, My Computer, My Way. And you can select your operating system that you're working with, and then you can find different tools for it. So you could choose Chromebooks, you could choose Android, or you could find within the browsers what tools are built in there. So it's a comprehensive reference for settings on different platforms. It's updated regularly and it's free. So really useful guide there. Okay, coming to the end now. Let me know if you've got any questions. I'd love to know what you think of Google's kind of approach to accessibility. I've got some strong opinions on it, but I think they're justified. Be sure to sign up to the Techability newsletter. That's how you'll hear about all our upcoming webinars, training, and conference and everything else. And yeah, feel free to drop us an email or follow us on our socials. Our email is techability@natspec.org.uk. And thank you everyone for attending.